Hello everyone, welcome to Homestead Miami Speedway for round 3 of the International IndyCar League here from the Homestead Miami Speedway, formerly known as the Homestead Motorsports Complex, built just in time for the Indy Racing League's inaugural season. And we are here at the 1.5 mile reconfigured, quite literally a paperclip oval. And it's going to be an interesting race here with night conditions, should promote for some close racing. The setup and the car update from recently is going to basically contradict and fight all those elements. So we'll see how this plays out here today. Unfortunately, solo today, but I am Julian Altena, welcoming you all to this great racetrack for a 14-car race here around the 1.5 mile Homestead Miami Speedway. So we'll switch over to go. Had a few technical difficulties, but hopefully everything is fixed for this week's show.
Rogan, David. Cheers.
So cars gridding up now. Let's get your starting grid here on the screen. So on the front row, it will be Matthias Strauss and Roden Evting. Those two have been at the front for most of the season so far, and most of the races in the season, I should say. Only 2 races so far, so great result once again by Strauss, who won the first race and had to overcome a few, let's just keep it at difficulties, last week. David Stritt and Jason Lowe on row 2, the top 4, the usual suspects in the series at the moment. Moving on to row 3, it's Aman Lal and Matthias Marcomini. Row 4 is Richard Kelbaugh and Mauro Ramirez, who returns after a week away. Hope all is well with his mother. Brad Stanley, Dan Ench on row number 5. Moving on to row 6, it's Ryan Bowles and Rick Lovison. Mike West, Manuel Gomez Esteban on row 7. And that is going to wrap up your starting grid with Danny Alt in the 15th position, the one and only car on row number 8. So cars should get rolling here just about any second. And this will give us the time to showcase the overlay with a few changes that have been made. You can see the carbon look in the background. That's one of the changes. We will have the last pit lap up on the ticker here as well. There you can see everyone's manufacturer. Fastest lap is the usual feature. We have that. Gap to next car, gap to leader. Last pit lap, as I mentioned. So a few great features. And then here is the most exciting one. At least for me personally. We got green and yellow flag icons here on the screen. So it's going to look a lot nicer when we get going here for round number 3. So as I mentioned, Matthias Strauss and Roden Evting on the front row. As we get set to go for 127 laps around Homestead. So field in control of Matthias Strauss. And I'll be curious to see what Jason Lowe and Aman Lal are going to do here on this first start here of the race. Green flag is out. We are racing at Homestead Miami. Lap number 1 complete. Top 5 all single file. Richard Kelbaugh on the bottom making a few moves there. We'll switch the cameras over to him. There he is on the outside now. To Mike West. Rolling the high side. High side very OP here. You can just see the momentum in the draft behind Dan Ench. As Kelbaugh pulls clear of West. And now Bowles is going to have a look around West as well. Also moving up on the top side is him. And he's going to split the middle as Richard Kelbaugh is slow off the corner. Maybe he brushed the wall. As Bowles now on the outside still of Mike West, who is going to get some dirty air from Dan Ench ahead. Bowles on the outside should be able to pull clear. And he does. Move him up a position and we'll bring up the timing tower here. So Roden Aefting losing a spot to Jason Lowe a lap ago. Not the end of the world, the race is long. He knows all about long races, even though he got taken out early yesterday in the VOR IndyCar Series opener. Roden very much knows what to do, and so does Matthias Strauss, who was in a very good shot to win the race yesterday. Unfortunately, didn't quite play out the way he would have wanted. In his number, 2018 wasn't racing Honda, but Matthias very much capable these days. Very big levels of improvement over the last year, and he is really showing it these days as he just continues to control the race here up front. Aman Lowe and Matthias Marcomini running close together. Lowe hasn't really gained anything off the line. Bowles in the meantime got ahead of Dan Ench though, as Dan seems to be falling back just a little bit. There's David Strid, last week's winner, having to serve that EOL, which is one of the league rules here. Once you win the race, you need to start the next one from the back, so he is making his way forwards. Of course, he did officially start higher up the grid, but took the EOL coming to green. So once we bring up the graphics of race progress, like the CHL here, started... need to focus on the red driver first before I talk about this. Started third is not really representative of where he actually started, because as mentioned of the EOL, Mauro Ramirez slow on the inside as David Strid goes to the inside here on Dan Ench. Can he be the first one to make a move? He almost made a move for all the wrong reasons, as David Strid just about misses contact with Dan Ench. So Matthias Strauss leads the way from Jason Lowe, Roden Aefting. That's your top 3. Then Aman Lowe, Matthias Marcomini, the top 5. Then the top 10 is Mauro Ramirez, who just makes a move around Ryan Bowles for that 6th place. Then Ryan Bowles 7th, Dan Ench 8th. Strid and West complete the top 10. One car in the wall. Might have been a bit of netcode. As we'll turn the microphone down a little bit. There we go. That should be a little bit more pleasant for you guys. I do apologize. I've been playing with the settings a little bit, and I can't really find the right balance apparently. So Mauro Ramirez on his return to the series after a week away, doing a very good job here, battling Ryan Bowles for 6th. Currently gaining 2 spots is Ramirez in the independent Chevy. Ryan Bowles coming back for another attack here at Mauro. Let's hope they can come off the corner cleanly here, and they do. It's very easy to wash up on corner exit. It's been done many times by many people, including myself. But Mauro just continues to run that top side as the timing screen is basically a big Christmas lights screen. Let's go on board here with David Strid as he continues to charge forward. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Matthias Strauss at the moment with the fastest lap of the race. Closest battle on the racetrack at the moment is between Ryan Bowles and Mauro Ramirez, who we saw have been running very closely together for the last couple laps. Now, let's bring up the fuel stints. It should be approximately 34-35 laps with the 55% fuel tank. So we should be roughly halfway through the stint before we see the first round of green flag pit stops. As Ramirez now closing in on Marcomini, he's going to make a look to the inside, decides better for it. Going to stick behind for just a little bit longer, but Ramirez is there. And he's going to look to gain another spot. But not before Ryan Bowles has anything to say about it. He's coming up behind him as well. And decides to lift off a little bit. Very interesting. Bowles probably saving a bit of fuel then, is what I would assume. As Bowles now looks to the inside as we go cockpit cam. No way by just yet for Ryan Bowles. Let's take a quick look at the weather conditions today. 22-degree track temperature as Bowles once again has a look to the inside of Ramirez. Low humidity, low wind, low temperatures as we are basically used to now in the series. Which will lead to some interesting racing here. Not so much tire management, but you can run a lot closer than you would be able to do in the hotter conditions that we also see here at Homestead from time to time. If you're just joining us and fortunately for you missed the early mishaps with the audio levels, please do me a solid as well by letting me know if you like the stream or not. Anything that I need to improve is greatly appreciated, of course. Then looking at the schedule for the season, of course, Homestead today. Then next week we go to Autodromo Speedway, which we just had a race at yesterday. So that is up next on the schedule. As Brad Stanley is the first car seemingly out of the race. Let's see if we can catch what happened to him. So this is Brad Stanley on the first lap of the race, and I assume he just loses it on pit exit here. Brad Stanley coming through on the apron. Not seeing anything. It says Brad Stanley may have crashed. Might have been a netcode touch. So we'll focus back to live pictures here. As Brad Stanley is still running, albeit 5 laps down. So currently on lap 24 of 127, Matthias Marcomini has regrouped himself and has caught Aman Lal, who has in turn caught his teammate, Roden Eftink, who is dropping back from Jason Lowe quite considerably. The gap is now 2.5 seconds between Jason Lowe and Roden Eftink, so not sure if the tires are just falling away for those two or not, but Jason is closing the gap to Matthias Strauss. Those two will fight for the win. Matthias going to the inside, and he's going to be the first to blink after 25 laps here. Matthias Strauss, first car entering the pits, off of turn 3 as per the league procedures. As he brings it down to the pit lane speed limit. So Matthias Strauss leads all 24 laps so far today, and he's going to hand the lead over to Jason Lowe, who also enters the pits on lap 26. So seeing a few early takers for pit lane, earlier than expected for sure. So Ryan Bowles now is going to lead the race. Ryan was one of the few people last week at Phoenix who went longer. Got some laps led points there. Then Ench, another one of those drivers. So Marco Mini enters the pits. Ryan Bowles follows him in as well. Jason Lowe was already in, so that's going to bring the whole field down after only 26 laps. So let's see where Matthias Strauss cycles out, and he should retake the lead, no problem. As all those cars now exiting the pits. And there is Strauss, 2 seconds behind Jason Lowe. So Jason Lowe doing an amazing job on the pit-in to gain that much time. The only 2 drivers still on pit lane who are exiting right now, Marco Mini and Bowles. And there you go, we got the change of lead once again. Jason Lowe now takes the lead after the pit cycles. Matthias Strauss slots into second. Roden Eftink maintains the 3rd position. And Marco Mini just barely stays in front of Aman Lal. And David Stritt, in the meantime, has got himself all the way up to 6th place. So doing what he needs to do. Slow and methodical move through the field for David, who, as mentioned, had to start the race from the back. That is not a penalty for bad driving. That is simply for winning the race last week. If you're just joining us, one of the league rules here is the winner of the previous race needs to start the next race from the back. That is simply to make the races more competitive and enjoyable to watch for us, of course. Manuel Gomez Esteban taking a look to the inside of Richard Kelbo, who we saw at the front of the race earlier in the race, in the beginning stages. But they're really falling back now. Is the number 9. If we go back to the battle here for P number 4, Marco Mini just managed to hold on to the position under the green flag pit cycles. As now Lal to the inside has a look. Should be able to clear with the momentum, and indeed he does. Marco Mini coming back now. So this will be a back and forth battle for position. David Stritt enters the picture now, lap 33, making a move for the top 5 to the inside is David Stritt. Can he pull off the pass on Manlo, who lost the position once again to Marco Mini? So Marco Mini, we thought, was going to swap with Manlo for position for a little bit, but straight up gains the position back. So now Stritt is going to have a look at around Manlo, and there he is. Let's go on board here with David Stritt as we take a closer look at this battle for P4, 5, and 6. This is a nice three-way fight. So Manlo now back to the inside of Marco Mini. And another very realistic strategy for those 2 drivers at the moment is to simply just swap the positions. Drop the draft into turns 1 and 3. Maybe gain a little bit of lap time that way. It's amazing to see how close these drivers are running towards the wall on the corner entries. It's kind of what you need to do to gain the most speed possible on corner entry. So Strid makes the pass for P5. That's going to set him on low another position back. So from 4th to 6th place in the first third of the race. Marcomini, though, doing an excellent job of holding on to the position. And at the front of the field, it is Jason Lowe still in control of the race. Of course, he took the lead under the last green flag pit cycle, in which Matthias Strauss simply had a slower pit lane time and got jumped by Jason. Roden Eftink maintains the 3rd spot. Marcomini maintains 4th. David Strid is all the way up to 5th place after starting from the back. Manlal now under attack from Ryan Bowles. He takes a peek to the inside. Aman rolling the high side now. He's going to try to get the momentum off the corner, but it seems to me that Aman Lal is really burning through the right front tire. That's what's really causing him to drop through the field. And the likes of Ryan Bowles, David Strid, Marcomini around him are simply managing that tire way better than he is at the moment. Oh, Bowles really had to get out of the throttle there to not hit the wall. And you'll see that time and time again here in the dirty area around Miami, that you really need to lift off in the corners. But here is the pass for position here, P4. David Strid, 1 lap ago. Sizes him up on exit, gets the momentum off the corner, takes the high side. And David Strid simply, with the momentum, drives right around him to take that 4th place. So now Marcomini is slipping back a little bit from David Strid, which is going to allow Aman Lal to catch up a little bit as well. Looking back a little bit further as well, battle for P9 between Mauro Ramirez and Mike West. Mike West, we saw slip back a few positions at the start of the race, but has been in the top 10 in around 10th position for the race, the whole of the race since then. As Mike takes a look to the inside here to try and get some clean air on the nose. As Bowles and Lowe continue to fight for position. Oh, almost had his nose chopped off there in turn 2. He's got to be careful with netcode too. We've seen in the last 2 races here in the series that netcode has been improved, but nowhere near eliminated, as Will Stearns and Matthias Strauss found out, as Ryan Bowles now hits the wall. We mentioned a few moments ago, it's very easy to wash up into the wall on exit, and Ryan Bowles just proved me right there, as he is going to lose a chunk of time and momentum here to Aman Lal. So the only 2 battles really for position at the moment are between Mike West and Mauro Ramirez, and also Ryan Bowles and Aman Lal, who really closes in on corner entry. So we'll flick between those 2 battles as best as possible. But Mike West has been sitting in the rear wing of Ramirez for the last few laps and not really looking like he wants to make a move at the moment. So perhaps just saving a bit of fuel, maybe extending the stints by a lap or two if he can. Remember, we saw the first round of stops around lap 25, 26. So we should be around 2-3 laps away from the next round of pit stops. As Ramirez is the first one to dive into the pits on lap 51. Or lap 50 for him, coming to lap 51. So Ramirez is the first to blink. And we have a few more takers. Roden Eefting is the next one on pit road. So he gives up third position to get a lap or two undercut on those around him. Matthias Strauss now entering the box. Jason Lowe already on pit lane. There he is. As he slows it down. Great stint, by the way, for Jason Lowe. Really doing a good job making the most of the pit entries. So Ryan Bowles is going to stay out. As well as Matthias Marcomini and David Strid, who I would assume are going to pit this time by. And indeed they do. At least David Strid. Marcomini also pits. Ryan Bowles, though, going to continue for yet another lap. As Strauss exits the box. And Jason Lowe has had a slow stop. He's had a slow stop. He is right behind Dan Enge now, who is on pit lane, so that's not right behind him. Trying to figure this all out. Yeah, so Marcomini has jumped him. Now Mike West is on pit lane, Ryan Bowles on pit lane, so that should, after all, cycle Jason Lowe back out to the front. So I do apologize for misspeaking there. Jason Lowe did not have a slow stop. In fact, he had a very speedy stop because he gained another second on Matthias Strauss. One driver who has lost ground, though, is Aman Lal, who now takes a look to the inside of Marcomini. He is going to try to reclaim his position in the top 5. And he does for now. So clean air in front of Aman Lal now. So now he needs to make the most of these fresh tires before he burns through them. Let's see what he can do here on this stint. David Strid still in 4th place, doing a great job as we've already covered. And his charge through the field will be made a little bit more difficult the further he gets up the field. So let's see how this all plays out. He's still got plenty of time. Just a few laps shy from the halfway point in this race. We are about 8 laps away from that. So during the pit cycle, Mike West gains the position on Mauro Ramirez to move Mike up a position. And other than that, everyone has maintained their position. Don't hit your equipment, guys. So we are entering the middle stages of the race, which also means that action is going to be a little bit limited. We do fortunately have 2 battles for position, including one that just wrapped up. Mike West gets by Dan Enge. We just missed that pass. Of course we did. Let's go back to lap 58 here. Interesting. So here's the move from Mike West on Dan Inch to the inside here in turn 1 and 2. Really impressive momentum off the corner there from Mike. We haven't seen that much today yet. The outside line has been the very much dominant line as he pulls clear of the 52. So great move there by Mike to get up into P8. So Jason Lowe still leads. Has led 32 laps today. In his Florida Urgent Rescue Chevy. Leading the way he is. Matthias Strauss has led 24 laps, the first 24 laps of the day. Lost the lead after the first round of stops and hasn't been able to take it back on the next one. Gordon Aefting hasn't led any laps today yet, but is doing a very good job of maintaining that podium position. David Strait with an EOL, so the third place start is really not relevant because he did start from the rear, but doing a good job charging back to the front. Aman Lal back up in the top 5, where he also started. He ran 4th for a little while, ran 6th for a little bit, but now of course back in that top 5. Marco Mini currently 6th after starting 6th as well, even though that has also not been as straightforward as it looks. Ryan Bowles up 4 spots, so making some nice moves up the field as well, is the 25. And Mike West also up 5. We saw him make a move around Dan Inch a few moments ago. And Dan Inch, of course, lost one of those spots. But still a net gain of 1 position so far today. And then completing the top 10, losing 2 spots is Mauro Ramirez on his first race back. So good to see him. So whilst there's not really much to talk about at the moment, let's bring up the stats page for the series here. So the drivers with the most starts in the series, Jason Lowe, who just happens to lead the way, so experience very much a factor here in this series as well. Of course, Jason Lowe knows the drivers and the league inside out. He, in fact, runs the series as well. Mike West, 2 stars less than Jason, with 244, so 246 for Jason. Dan Inch is the 3rd most experienced driver in the field with 231 starts. And then all the way at the bottom, you have 1 start so far today for Aman Lal and 2 for Strauss and Aefting. So it's a very mixed bag of experience and no experience in the series, at least. Of course, that doesn't mean that those guys don't have experience with IndyCar. Of course, Strauss, Aefting, Lal, and even Marco Mini, in fact, as well as Dan Inch and Mauro Ramirez. They all have experience in either the Global IndyCar Challenge that we also cover here on the VOR channel, which is done by Howie Burrows, Gary Gotso, Jack James, and from time to time, Ewan O'Leary. Or the VOR IndyCar series, of course, the main series here on the channel. But, all of the drivers in the field very much know how to drive an IndyCar. And it really does show with how clean the race has been so far. 0 cautions, which is very impressive. We've hit the average number of cautions on the first 2 rounds of the season. Going into those rounds, the average was 1.95 and 2.01, I believe, from the top of my head for Phoenix. At the moment, track and caution free here at Homestead. So if you want to get involved and get some clean racing in on your Sundays, make sure to apply to the league. Message Jason Lowe or David Strait, and they will get you sorted to run in the series next week from the Auto Club Speedway. So we've passed the halfway point in the race, about 5 laps ago. Here's the schedule for the International IndyCar League. Of course, tonight we have Homestead Miami. Next week, it is Autodromo Speedway for 95 laps. Then we go to Texas and Spa-Francorchamps to cap off the month of January. Then we go to Daytona, Nashville, Motegi, and Monza in February. And then Michigan, Atlanta, and Indianapolis cap off the season as a whole. Before we do it all over again in late March and early April through into the start of summer. So let's bring up the last pit lap here. So remember, we've seen 26 lap stints for each round of stops. 27 if you're Ryan Bowles or Mike West. So the next round of pit stops should be a few laps away. And of course we saw how Jason Lowe gained the lead through the pit cycles on the first round. So let's see if Strauss can make any headwind here on this round. Although it's going to be difficult for him. He's got a 4.8 second deficit to overcome as Jason Lowe here, the first one now to peel off into the pits. Of course, Jason burning the most fuel out front. Slow it down nicely for the pit lane. There he is. 50 miles per hour, 80 kilometers per hour. Nice and steady as we have 50 laps to go. It should be a 25 lap stint to the end. Matthias Strauss continues for another lap. He takes the lead temporarily. So it's nice and smooth stop again for Jason Lowe. He exits and gets up to speed here. Very careful on pit out, very methodical as well with the throttle as he exits into turn 3. So gaining momentum, gaining speed. As now the next group of cars are entering the pits. Matthias Strauss here pitting from the lead. And you saw Jason Lowe fly by, but you lose a lap here pitting on the green. So this is not for position yet until the next time around. As more people come into the pits now as well. So everyone on set for more or less the same strategy. As Jason Lowe charges through turn 4 now, he's going to look to retake the lead here quite convincingly. Strauss exits the pit lane, there you go, in the front of the shot. And Jason Lowe once again with the pit cycle to gain even more time. Just look at the time delta go up and up and up. 6 seconds, 6.25 seconds, it's going to go up to 6.5. Maybe even 7 seconds. So once again, gaining 2 full seconds on the pit cycle. Very impressive by Jason. Now remember, Matthias Strauss is no slouch. He does know how to enter the pits, but today he just doesn't have anything for Jason Lowe. David Stritt in the meantime gets up to third through the pit cycle as well. So the gap's all above at least half a second. In fact, everyone above a second away from each other. So I suppose this is a nice time to promote some other shows we have coming to the channel. Of course, on Wednesday, the Global IndyCar Challenge returns from Charlotte for the second oval and the first race of the new year. For 208 laps, 500 kilometers around Charlotte. Of course, the home of the Coca-Cola 600 in the NASCAR world. IndyCar did use the race there, albeit with a little bit of tragic involved in that short history as well. A little bit of tragedy is the word I should use. And of course, next Saturday we have the VOR IndyCar Series from Mexico City for the first time. The inaugural race at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. So make sure to tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern for the Global IndyCar Challenge on Wednesday and 2 p.m. Eastern for the VOR IndyCar Series on Saturday as David Strait makes his way around the lapped car. And we briefly touched upon how impressive Jason Lowe's pit entry and exits have been. Total lane time is half a second less than Matthias Strauss, so 30.9 seconds in the lane for Jason Lowe, 31.4 for Matthias Strauss, and then another 6/10 gained by Jason in the pit box itself. So in total, that is, if I can do math correctly really quickly, that is 1.1 seconds gained simply on the pit lane itself. So from the yellow cone to the blue cone on exit, or the green cone on exit, I should say. That is what Jason gained, and then also getting up to speed is where Jason gained a huge amount of time. So Matthias Strauss is now working to get the gap down a little bit, but I do fear it is slightly too late for Matthias, who has a first and third place in the series so far this season. And I do know it is a little bit early to talk about championship points, but we're going to do it anyway. So David Strait leads the way by 5 over Strauss. Roden Evening is third, 17 behind the leader. And then Jason Lowe is in fourth place. So those 4 drivers, I will assume, are going to fight it out for the championship. Dan Enge is a little bit further behind in the top 5 position, P5. So Dan Enge doing a very respectable job this season so far. Then arguably the most experienced IndyCar driver in the series at the moment. Not just in the series, but in the community as a whole. A few weeks ago, I discovered Dan Enge has been racing in the Indy Elite Series, going all the way back to at least 2019, maybe even a little bit further. So it's very cool to see him still around. Of course, there's many other people who have been running this car for a long, long time as well. Even longer than Dan Enge, but Dan is, I would say, from the prehistoric days of the IndyCar on iRacing. So Matthias Marcomini making his way around a few lapped cars, closing the gap to Aman Lal, who of course gained that position around 30 laps ago. And you can really just see the momentum being with Marcomini at the moment. So let's take a ride on board here with Marcomini to see what lines he's taking. Aman Lal getting down to the white line. Marcomini staying just a little bit above it. Marcomini just about follows that line here on the next lap in turns 1 and 2. So Marcomini probably just shooting for the draft here to try and get pulled along a little bit. So here are the gaps between Marcomini and Aman Lal. And I have to make sure I'm reading this right. Apparently Aman Lal has been pulling away from him. Very interesting. Yeah. Manlal is slowly starting to pull away again from Marcomini. So I think we just missed the crossover. Because Marcomini was definitely gaining on Manlal, but I think Marcomini in the meantime has burned through his tires a little bit, which is now causing him to fall back. Because you can just, yeah, exactly, you can see the gap shoot up from basically gaining 0.05, 0.03, Manlal that being on Marcomini to almost 2/10 loss on the last lap. So Marcomini very much falling off with the tires at the moment. As we are about 6-7 laps away from the next and final round of pit stops, as overlay as well. So Strauss has caught Jason Lowe to 2 seconds. So Matthias gaining at least 3 seconds in this stint so far. And just like with Marcomini, how much has he burned through his tires? We'll have to find out in a little bit. Of course, we're only about 5, 6, 7 laps away from the next round of stops. So you would think the tires would have fallen away by now, but Matthias clearly still gaining time. And yeah, I think Jason Lowe is slowly catching some more lap traffic. And indeed he does. He does have a lap car in front of him. That would be Mauro Ramirez. Going to be critical for Jason to get by as soon as possible, or pit before he really catches Ramirez, because if he doesn't, Matthias Strauss will be right there to pounce. And I would assume Matthias Strauss is going to try to do the undercut, try and retake the lead that way through the pit cycle. As Denenge stays high, it's going to allow Matthias Strauss through. Those two know each other from other series they run in. And allow Strauss to set after Jason Lowe, and once again gaining half a second in the last 2 laps alone. So Matthias Strauss is coming. And in fact, he is gaining speed. He has just gained almost 2/10 of pure lap time on the last couple of laps. And yeah, you can just see the gap come down, 2.5 tenths each lap. So this time around, it's a little bit less. The gap will more or less stay the same. It will probably go up just a little bit. And there it is. But Matthias is within the window to reclaim the lead during the pit cycles as long as he gets it right. So when will Jason Lowe and when will Matthias Strauss dive into the pits? And who of those two does so first? You will find out after the break. No, I'm just kidding. Manlaldo, the first of the top drivers to dive into the pit lane. So he will go to the end, 24 laps to go. As Matthias Strauss on pit lane. And so is Jason Lowe. So it's going to be a head-to-head fight for the lead on pit lane. Matthias Strauss charging it in on the pit entry. And closes the gap all the way to half a second. So very impressive to slow it down on the brakes. Even later than Jason Lowe has been doing. Who has nailed every single pit stop so far today. So Jason Lowe in the box. Don't overshoot it, Jason. There you go. Same applies for Matthias Strauss. There he is up the jacks. And Jason Lowe is off and away. And Matthias Strauss has a little bit of a longer hold. And that is not what he needed. As Jason Lowe accelerates and will set off into the sunset. Because I don't think Matthias Strauss will be able to catch him in time. Not at the rate that we've seen Jason driving clean air. It's going to be really difficult for Strauss to overcome the deficit he just got slapped onto him again as well. Remember, when they entered the pits, the gap was around 1.6, 1.7. And the gap is now all the way up to 2.2. And that gap is coming down with the draft, but I'm not convinced that Strauss can find a way by. As Denenge is the last car to pit. And he will do so with 23 laps to go. So that will hand the lead back over to Jason Lowe. There he is, as he makes his way by a lap car as well. And is going to put a bit of a buffer between himself and Matthias Strauss. So in the meantime, Mike West and Mauro Ramirez, Mike West and Ryan Bowles close together for P8. Ramirez completes the top 10 still. And then there is a 23-second gap from Ramirez to Kelbo. So as long as Ramirez stays in the race, he should be able to bag a top 10 as Denenge exits the pits just behind Ramirez. And he will slot into that position. So coming out of turn 4, there will be 20 laps to go this time by. So 20 laps to go for Jason Lowe. 1.4 seconds is the gap to Matthias Strauss. And Matthias is coming. But catching is one thing and passing is another. He's got the lead car in front of him of Mauro Ramirez, who will move to the high side. Gonna be tough though for Matthias to find a way by, because the next lead car in front of Mauro is defending the low line. Or driving the low line, I should say. So that's going to take all the air away for Strauss. As that is a Denenge. Difficult to tell from this angle, but either way, Strauss clears one lap car. The gap is now 1.12 seconds to Jason Lowe. And Ramirez keeps running the high side, and he is going to dive to the bottom as Matthias Strauss. And he is now going to set after Jason Lowe. 18 laps to go to decide the win here at Homestead Miami. Race number 3 of 13 in the International IndyCar Series. We've seen close finishes here in the official side of things. A week or two ago over on the P1 Broadcasting channel, of course. Covering the Indy Oval Fixed Series. As Ramirez continues to run side by side with Matthias Strauss. Not really sure what the game plan is here. I'm sure Matthias is not really liking it though. As the gap now shoots back up to 1.12 seconds. So he hasn't really gained anything on the last 2 laps, is Matthias Strauss. As Jason Lowe now clears another back marker, that is Richard Kelbo. So only the top 10 still running on the lead lap. Everyone else is at least 1 lap down. Make that the top 8 being on the lead lap. Of course, Ramirez and Ainge were already a lap down through the pit cycle. So Kelbo now the first car 2 laps down. And I think Matthias Strauss has burned through his tires as well as being buried in dirty air as well. So I think the race is going to be pretty much over. But then again, it is not over until it's over. Maybe I just jinxed Jason Lowe by saying it's already over. We'll find out. But yeah, 12 laps to go this time by. It's difficult to tell if Strauss lost the win due to Ramirez not wanting to give up the track position, but I'm sure that will be a case argued by Strauss perhaps post-race. We should talk about David Stritt though. Of course, winning the Phoenix round last week. All the way up to third place. Very impressive drive by him so far. He just needs to finish the laps and he will have a very well-deserved third place in the bag. And for Roden Eefting and Aman Lal, I think they will be a little bit disappointed. I think they were expecting more from this race today. I know Roden was really aiming for the win. Came close last week, so did Aman Lal until he crashed on pit entry. Of course, Aman Lal clipped the apron with 2 wheels, just barely. And it was enough to spin him around and be collected by multiple oncoming cars. So that, of course, meant race over for the number 30. But inside 10 to go. And the gap is slowly coming back down, but I think it's just a bit of a yo-yo effect. One time, Strauss can get close, and then the dirty air settles in, and there's just no way to close the gap further. It's basically like an air bubble. You can drive up toward it, but you can't break it. Current fastest lap of the race is in the hands of Matthias Strauss, though. So he's not going to lose the win for lack of trying. Of course, he did lose the lead after the first round of stops. Strauss led convincingly until then, and since then, it has been Jason Lowe at the front of the field, as he will tick off the laps with now 6 laps to go. Fastest car on track at the moment is Marco Mini, running in 6th place. So he is closing the gap to Aman Lal, but I'm not sure if he can get to him in time. Just up the distance, second car in shot is Aman Lal, with a back marker in between. Marco Mini has been doing a very decent job today too. Of course, he's going to finish where he started, but I'm sure he will take the good points day today. As we focus back on Jason Lowe, with 3 laps to go, has led the most laps by a mile. 91 laps led today. By the time we get done here, it will be 94 laps led today. So an absolute dominant drive by Jason Lowe today. And he's got 3 miles left, 2 laps to cap it off and really put himself in contention for that championship. Of course, Jason has won the championship a couple of times. He's finished runner-up a couple of times. Been in the top 3 in general many times. So I'm sure he's used to winning races and being up there to fight for titles, but I'm sure this race win will be very sweet and very welcome for him. Final lap for Jason Lowe. And Matthias Strauss continues to fall further back. So coming through turns 3 and 4, Jason Lowe has led the most laps today. Has been the fastest on pit out, pit in the pit box itself even. And simply through nailing the pit cycles, Jason Lowe gets to the front and wins the Homestead Miami 190. Matthias Strauss, I would assume, runs out of fuel, finishes second. David Strait from last to third. And then Roden Eefting and Aman Lal finish in the top 5. great result by those two drivers. Of course, Mauro Ramirez on his return finishes P8. The first car let down, but no less impressive at all. And Ryan Bowles, once again with the consistent results in the top 8 for many races. So another decent points day for him too. And we'll give Jason this moment in the sun. He's already big Thunderstones, but we'll give him his airtime anyway, as if he hasn't had enough today. There you go. Those are some nice burnouts. And he's out of fuel. There you go. So let's take a look at your finishing results here from Homestead Miami Speedway. Jason Lowe wins in the Florida Urgent Rescue Chevy in front of Matthias Strauss and David Strait. Very impressive once again by David. Roden Aves Dinkerman Lowe complete the top 5. Then we have Marco Mini, Bowles, Ramirez, West, and Denenge who complete the first page of results. Then we got Richard Kelbar, Rick Lovison, Manuel Esteban, Danny Alt, and Brad Stanley, who of course went multiple laps down very early in the day, completes the field in 15th place. So in the meantime, whilst we queue up replays, just want to remind everyone that the next race is going to be at Auto Club Speedway for 95 laps. And I'm sure that race will be very interesting indeed. So we'll dive into the broadcast channel here. And we'll bring in your race winner, Jason. Hello, Jason. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I do now.
Perfect. Let me switch to my other microphone for you on Discord. I'm using a separate mic for that. So now you should be able to hear me more clearly. I do apologize for that, Jason. Great result for you today. You got the lead through the pit cycle on the first round, and then you never looked back. Just tell us about how you prepared for those pit entries and exits and how you nailed those to get by Strauss and take the win.
Yeah, just you had to really focus getting into the pits using the IndyCar turn 3 entry. A mistake there could be really costly. I was probably even a little conservative, but I think everyone was being conservative. Getting in your box in the pits and getting out of your box, it's so critical when everyone's so close on the track, and it's so hard to pass here. So feel real fortunate. Big fuel save the last portion of the race. I could feel him closing out on me, but I felt like he was going to be pretty tight on fuel too. So just tried to keep it clean in traffic and deal with traffic. It's always a challenge here, and real happy with the result today.
Yeah, you mentioned it's hard to pass. I did notice kind of a dirty air bubble. Was that something you experienced too? That you were conscious of? That you knew that you had to manage that, or was that something I maybe didn't see properly?
Well, I would say anywhere within about 9/10 of the car in front of you, the bubble is significant. Way worse of the exit of 4 than it is the exit of 2. You have to be really conscious there. This track, no matter how you set the car up, tends to wear the right rear. You had to be really conscious of the temperatures of your right rear. There was a lot of adjustment going on inside the car for me, at least. Significant between new tires. Significant once you got the right rear hot and had to start trying to heat the right front up so you could manage the right rear. And then again, just a big difference between new tires and old tires here. We had a lot of fall off, which I think makes for some good racing. Real proud that we went green the whole way. Great group of guys. They all know what they're doing. And again, just feel real fortunate with the result today.
Absolutely, and I did also touch upon that a little bit earlier in the race about how they went caution free, so that was really good to see. But yeah, of course, once again, congratulations. I want to let you give your final thoughts and thank yous, and I assume also a word on Florida Urgent Rescue, which is on the side of your car.
Yeah, Florida Urgent Rescue takes care of both domestic and wild animals, not just in the state of Florida. They went down for the hurricane in the Caribbean and rescued animals down there. I have 2 wonderful dogs, Malibu and Mason, who came from them, and the dogs prior to them came from them. It's just, I'm a big believer in rescuing when possible. And thanks for everybody who came out and raced today. Thanks to my wife, Tiffany, who puts up with me, and I appreciate all the league members very much. And Julian, thank you for your coverage.
Absolutely. Go out and celebrate. Maybe get a little bit of beer. Don't drink too much though, because it's Sunday.
I'm a bourbon guy, and it's already in my hand, sir.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, enjoy it, Jason. I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's Jason Lowe, your race winner, and of course the dominant man of the day. 94 laps. That's very impressive, of course. With the pit cycle, as we've covered countless times already. So next race is going to be at Autodromo Speedway, as mentioned, and I'm going to be very curious to see how that one plays out. We'll have to find out the scheduling availabilities for Jack, James, and myself next week to make sure if we can cover those races or not, but I would assume we'll be there. So just keep an eye out on the VOR YouTube channel page for the notification to pop up. You'll see the live event right there, and we'll probably be there. So once again, want to thank everyone for watching here. Of course, the audio levels are going to be played with a little bit still. Hope everything was a lot better this week. Of course, this is very much a trial and error run. Just gaining experience is this is pretty much a passion project. So getting experience is the most valuable thing that we can get out of this. So if you enjoyed the show and the thing was watchable, make sure to let me know by leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Of course, the proper coverage with the high quality and stuff with people that actually know what they're doing of the Global IndyCar Challenge and the VR IndyCar Series next week, which will be done by Howie Burrows, Gary Gosso, Jack James, and Justin Prince. Then we'll be back on Wednesday and Saturday, so make sure to tune in for those shows. And I want to thank everyone once again for taking the time on those Sundays to drive and watch, and for everyone's involvement in the series. So, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week for the Auto Club 190 here in the International IndyCar. Once again, congratulations to Jason Lowe on a well-deserved win, and we'll see you next week.